Chapter 1. The Warmth of the First Encounter. In September, the morning sunlight trickled down gently on the campus like gossamer threads. The ancient wutong leaves swayed slightly in the breeze, with shimmers of golden light dancing on their surfaces, as if each leaf concealed a tiny sun. Olivia dragged her rather large 32-inch suitcase and stood quietly under the magnificent Gothic arch. She tilted her head slightly, her eyes wandering along the towering lines of the arch, feeling the overwhelming unfamiliarity and solemnity of the campus. She took a deep breath. The fresh air was filled with the green and astringent smell of the newly trimmed lawn, a scent that carried the fragrance of the earth and was full of vitality. Olivia lowered her head and carefully examined the freshman handbook with the school emblem printed on it. Her eyes scanned the words line by line, trying to find a sense of familiarity from them to ease her inner unease. Just then, a cheerful whistle suddenly exploded beside her ear. Olivia instinctively looked up. A blonde girl with cherry-pink highlights, as light and agile as a fluttering phoenix-tailed butterfly, landed right in front of her. The girl's olive-green eyeliner made her gray-blue pupils even more profound, like the surface of a lake in the morning mist, hazy and captivating. "Your canvas shoes are so cool. Are they the Converse 1970s collab?" The girl's voice was clear and melodious, full of enthusiasm. As she spoke, she tilted her head slightly, her eyes fixed intently on Olivia's shoes, with admiration in her eyes. "I'm Emma, majoring in visual arts," Emma said, and then suddenly leaned closer to Olivia with an expression of surprise and envy on her face. "Oh my God, your eyelashes are so long. Did you put on lash primer?" Olivia was a bit flustered by this sudden enthusiasm. Her hand unconsciously grasped the strap of her faded backpack, and she lowered her head slightly, her cheeks blushing faintly. She had deliberately worn the floral dress her aunt gave her today, thinking it would be appropriate in the new environment. But at this moment, the machine-embroidered sunflowers on the skirt seemed extremely glaring, and even her skin seemed to be itchy. Just as she was about to respond to Emma, two figures came slowly from the direction of the outdoor coffee shop. In the front was a girl wearing 10-centimeter stiletto heels. She walked with lightness and confidence, and the sound of her high heels hitting the ground was clear and forceful. The girl casually placed the frappuccino in her hand on Olivia's suitcase. She was wearing a crop top, and the faintly visible rose tattoo on her body undulated slightly with her breathing, exuding a unique sense of unruliness. "Are you abducting lost lambs again?" The girl's lips curved slightly upward with a teasing smile. "I'm Stella, double majoring in drama and media." As she spoke, she casually shook her water diamond inlaid manicure, and the sunlight refracted on her nails, creating tiny and gorgeous rainbows. Just then a cry came, "It's going to melt. It's going to melt." Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. A girl with round framed glasses was fumbling to catch the tilting ice cream cone. Unfortunately, she was a step too slow, and the cream smeared on her light chestnut bangs, like a fluffy white cloud. The girl's face turned bright red instantly. She apologized in a flurry while rummaging through her pocket for a tissue. "Sorry. I'm Chloe, majoring in biomedical engineering." The tissue was printed with a cute cartoon Shiba Inu, forming a wonderful contrast with the anatomical diagrams that might be in the pocket of her lab coat. Olivia stood there at a loss. Suddenly, a cup of matcha macchiato was stuffed into her hand, and the condensed water droplets on the cup wall quickly soaked her palm, bringing a touch of coolness. She looked up. Emma was smilingly inserting a sunflower into the side pocket of her backpack, her movements gentle and natural. Stella was carefully checking her lip makeup with the front-facing camera of her phone, occasionally gently pursing her lips with her fingers. Chloe quietly threw the fallen ice cream cone into the trash can, and then smiled at Olivia somewhat sheepishly. The hourly chimes of the distant bell tower rang out, the melodious sound echoing over the campus and startling a flock of white pigeons. The pigeons flapped their wings and soared into the sky, tracing beautiful arcs against the backdrop of the blue sky and white clouds. "Let's go, rookies." Stella flicked her obsidian earrings and the metal chains tinkled on her collarbone. Her voice was decisive and brooked no argument. "First, we'll steal the wine the professor hid in the attic of the art gallery, and then we'll go to the lake island to watch the midnight meteors." She raised her eyebrows, looking at the surprised Olivia, and added, "Don't look at me like that. Article 27 of the Student Code says, "No boredom allowed." That. Olivia was taken aback for a moment, then trotted to catch up with the three figures moving further away. Her canvas shoes stepped on the ground, and the fragmented light and shadows scattered under her feet, as if she was stepping on a shattered dream. She didn't know that this September morning, filled with acrylic paint, caffeine and chemical formulas, would become a memory specimen that she would repeatedly caress in countless sleepless nights in the future, and the warmest opening of her college life. Chapter 2: Subtle Changes. The rain poured down in sheets, pounding violently against the glass curtain wall. The neon lights outside the window blurred into hazy blobs in the rain, like an abstract painting smudged by water. Olivia sat in front of the computer, her eyes fixed on the screen, her fingers tapping rapidly on the keyboard as she dragged the last line of code into the shared document. She rubbed her throbbing temples and glanced at the bottom right corner of the computer screen. It was 23:47 and it was already very late. She leaned wearily back in her chair and casually opened the four-person chat group. The invitation to last week's dinner still hung alone at the top of the dialog box, unanswered, like a withered leaf on the verge of falling but stubbornly held up by the cold wind, exuding an air of endless desolation. Ding! The notification sound of special attention was particularly harsh in the silent room, shattering the suffocating silence. It was Chloe who had updated her status. Olivia clicked on it subconsciously. In the 9 square grid photos, the Eiffel Tower model was reflected in the margarita glass, with light and shadow intertwined, looking extremely dreamy. The location showed an immersive art bar newly opened in the west of the city, which was a trendy hotspot that young people were most enthusiastic about these days. Olivia's finger involuntarily hovered above the like button. Just then she noticed that at the edge of the third photo, a half-exposed light blue cuff was visible. It was the tie-dye sweatshirt they had bought together on Emma's birthday. The familiar color instantly triggered her memories, and scenes of them laughing and playing together in the past uncontrollably surged in her mind. Her memory quietly drifted back to the night of the first snowfall. Inside the bustling hot pot restaurant, the steaming heat filled every corner, making people feel extraordinarily warm. The hand-knitted scarf Chloe gave her still carried the unique warmth of the wool. The delicate stitches, every single one, was filled with the friendship between friends. Stella took a key and carved the fourth scratch on the railing outside the hot pot restaurant, saying that she wanted to record every beautiful moment of their gatherings. That scratch seemed to be still clearly in front of her eyes. Olivia opened her private photo album, where there was a video of the rooftop moonlight wine party. In the video she stood on the edge of the rooftop, and the gardenia behind her ear bloomed wantonly under Chloe's camera. The moonlight shone on their faces and everyone wore a happy smile. However, the sudden vibration of her phone interrupted her memories. It was a message from Amanda. "Have you seen their new Instagram posts?" The attached picture was a group photo of Emma, Chloe, and Stella holding rainbow smoothies. They were smiling brightly as if their lives were filled with endless joy. The Pandora bracelet on Chloe's wrist glistened in the sunlight, and that glimmer now seemed to be a merciless mockery of Olivia. Olivia's thoughts drifted back to that downpour-soaked birthday. She rushed to the hospital in the rain to help Chloe pretend to have a broken bone. When Chloe tore off the bandage, the bracelet had also glistened like this. Olivia sat alone on the subway. The crosswind in the tunnel whistled past, taking away the last bit of warmth from her body. She buried her face deep into the pilled scarf, trying to find a little warmth. On the opposite glass window, the figures of 3 girls were reflected. They were huddled together, passing around an email, their faces showing expressions of surprise and then delight from time to time. The figure on the far right was wearing an oatmeal-colored coat, and there was still a water stain on the shoulder that she had left when she helped iron it last night. Olivia looked at that water stain, her heart filled with mixed emotions. At this moment, a new message popped up in the group. "Something came up last minute, so we have to reschedule. Hugs to my babies." The attached picture was still a group photo of the 3 of them holding rainbow smoothies. Olivia looked at this photo and her thoughts drifted back to the last dinner. In the restaurant, the crystal chandelier cast a soft light, refracting colorful spots on Stella's red wine glass, just like the reflection on the subway glass at this moment. That day her coat accidentally caught on the cleaner's cart, and the trash can was knocked over. Half of a travel contract soaked in red wine was revealed. She clearly saw that there were only 3 signatures side by side in the beneficiary column, and hers was not among them. Olivia sat in the corner of the coffee shop. The latte in front of her had long since gone cold, and the almond syrup had congealed into cobweb-like cracks on the surface of the coffee. She mechanically stirred the coffee, her eyes vacant and her mind wandering. A sudden burst of laughter from the next table startled her so much that her hand shook, and the sugar cube rolled onto the Chanel logo on Amanda's phone case. "Oh my God, you actually don't know?" Amanda's voice was sharp and urgent. The way she flipped the phone was like an executioner brandishing a guillotine, with an undeniable cruelty. "They call it the ugly duckling correction plan." On the screen, Emma's Instagram story was playing on a loop. In the cropped 4-person graduation photo, the pixels of Olivia's half were replaced by a funny cartoon penguin, with the caption, "Some friends are like bit part actors." Olivia felt a rush of blood to her head, her eyes instantly welled up with tears, and the grievance and anger in her heart reached their peak. Olivia could no longer bear all this. She suddenly stood up, grabbed her coat and rushed out into the rainstorm regardless. In her haste, her high-heeled shoes got stuck in the sewer grate. She struggled hard and finally broke off the heels with her bare hands. At that moment she looked as if she was tearing apart a once beautiful fairy tale. In the rain curtain, the luxury store windows were dazzlingly bright. The Burberry windbreaker and her wet hair were both dripping with water. In the reflection of the window, she saw 3 familiar figures holding umbrellas and leisurely walking towards the platinum bag counter. The broken diamonds on Stella's new phone case spelled out the letters BFF, refracting a distorted rainbow in the puddle. The words that originally represented best friends forever now seemed so ironic. Chapter 3: The Transparent Truth. Olivia stood in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling mirror. The room was so quiet that only her gentle breathing could be heard. Her fingertips slowly slid across the cold mirror surface. The mirror was so shiny that it could reflect everything clearly, yet it couldn't show even the slightest trace of her figure. It had been the 7th day since she acquired the invisibility ability. The mirror was empty, and only the curtain fluttering gently in the wind behind her silently testified that all this was not an absurd dream. Recalling the first time she discovered her disappearance, it was in the company's pantry. The afternoon sun shone through the windows and cast patches of light and shadow on the ground. Emma, holding a cup of steaming coffee, walked gracefully past her. However, that familiar gaze seemed to penetrate her body and look straight elsewhere, as if she were just an illusory shadow in the air, without any sense of presence. Olivia subconsciously reached out her hand, wanting to touch Emma's arm to confirm her own real existence. But her fingertips passed through Emma's arm without any obstruction, just like passing through a wisp of thin fog, without any tactile sensation of a solid body. "Stella, have you seen Olivia?" Emma's voice drifted leisurely from not far away, with a hint of eagerness in her inquiry. "She promised to help me revise the plan today. Who knows? Maybe she's hiding somewhere, playing the victim again." Stella's laughter was sharp and harsh, like sharp glass shards scratching across Olivia's eardrums. "Anyway, it's just as well she's not here. We're going to the newly opened Michelin-starred restaurant tonight. I've already made a reservation." Olivia's heart tightened suddenly as if being tightly grasped by someone. She silently followed them into the elevator. The mirror-lined walls of the elevator reflected the figures of 3 exquisitely made-up and well-dressed women, while she seemed to be an invisible onlooker. Emma's newly manicured nails tapped rapidly on the phone screen. What was shown on the screen was their 4-person chat group. She was deleting their past chat records. Every click seemed to be erasing the traces of Olivia's existence. A corner of a document protruded from Stella's platinum bag. Olivia recognized it at a glance. It was the project plan she had stayed up all night to help Stella revise. The exhaustion and dedication during those late-night efforts now seemed so ridiculous. Chloe was focused on browsing the shopping website, and her favorites were filled with affordable brands that Olivia had once recommended. But now, these recommendations seemed to be nothing more than tools to be casually exploited. At the restaurant, Olivia quietly sat opposite them, watching the waiter carefully serve the delicate foie gras and expensive truffles. When the bill was presented, Emma naturally took out Olivia's wallet, which she had accidentally taken during last week's dinner. But now this so-called accident seemed more like a carefully planned calculation. Anyway, she won't need it. As Emma spoke, she pulled out the credit card. Just then, a photo slipped out from the wallet's inner pocket. It was a photo of the starry sky they had taken at the observatory during their freshman year. In the photo, the four of them were smiling brightly with the vast starry sky in the background. On the back of the photo, it was written in highlighter, "The four-leaf clovers forever." The once beautiful vows and memories now seemed so ironic. Olivia subconsciously reached out to pick up the photo, but the photo passed through her palm unhindered and fluttered to the ground. Her body trembled slightly, and an indescribable bitterness and despair welled up in her heart. At this moment she finally completely understood that she hadn't become invisible. In their eyes she had never really existed. She was just a dispensable accessory in their lives, a target to be casually exploited. In the third month of being invisible, Olivia gradually discovered that she could freely enter and exit any place without any obstruction. She was like an invisible wandering soul, quietly shuttling through every corner of the city, collecting the secrets that were deliberately hidden in the dark. In Emma's company in the spacious and bright office, Olivia stood quietly aside, listening to the market department manager scolding his subordinates with a furious face. "The creative idea has been plagiarized again? Who is it this time?" Her gaze turned to Emma's workstation. The drawer was messy and filled with project plans borrowed from colleagues. On each of these plans, Emma's name was blatantly written. The original ideas that belonged to others were taken by Emma as her own and became the stepping stones for her promotion. In Stella's apartment, Olivia gently flipped through her laptop. The contents of the encrypted folder were astonishing. It was filled with secretly taken privacy photos of colleagues, and there was also a detailed and appalling promotion plan. It was detailedly recorded how to use these photos to threaten competitors and climb to higher positions step by step. The title of the newly created document was, "How to Make Olivia Resign Voluntarily." When Olivia saw this title, a chill ran down her spine. Entering Chloe's bedroom, the scene in front of her was like a luxurious casino. The wardrobe was stuffed with the latest luxury items of the season, and the price tags were still intact, exuding the smell of money. In the drawer of the bedside table there was a thick stack of IOUs. The latest one read, "Owe Olivia $5,000 for investment and financial management." But when Olivia checked her bank account, she found that all this money had been transferred to the account of an underground casino. Her trust was ruthlessly trampled by Chloe to satisfy her gambling desire. What shocked and chilled Olivia the most was their three-person group chat record. The goose-raising plan that started during their college years detailed how they took advantage of her kindness and simplicity, asking her to help with homework, projects, and even taking exams for them. After they started working, they became even more unscrupulous, trying every means to make her willingly pay the bills, work overtime, and take the blame. "She's like a never-running-out power bank," Emma wrote triumphantly in the group. "As long as you give her some benefits, you can squeeze her infinitely. Unfortunately, the battery is running low recently," Stella replied with a hint of coldness and determination in her tone. "It's time to get a new one." Olivia stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window of her apartment, looking at the bright night view of the city. Once she thought these lights were like the twinkling stars in the night sky, warm and bright, giving her hope and strength. But now these lights were like countless cold eyes, mercilessly watching her experiences. She slowly opened her phone. The photo album was filled with evidence she had secretly taken over the years. Evidence of Emma's plagiarism, recordings of Stella threatening colleagues, and videos of Chloe gambling. The seeds of revenge quietly took root and germinated in her heart. Her eyes revealed firmness and determination. She decided to use the methods they were most proficient in to shatter their hypocritical masks one by one and make them pay the price for what they had done. Chapter 4. The Symphony of Revenge. The plan began on an ordinary Monday morning. Olivia sat on the bay window of her apartment, the blue glow of her laptop casting a pale light on her face. She opened a brand new anonymous email account, its IP address routed through multiple layers, like a ghost navigating a digital maze. "Dear Mr. Johnson," she began typing, "I believe you will find the attached content of interest." The email contained a compressed file with all the evidence of Emma's plagiarism over the past 2 years. Time-stamped original documents, traces of edits, and even a secretly recorded video of Emma buying ideas from an intern in a cafe. The moment she hit send, Olivia felt her heart pounding in her chest. She remembered how Emma had always borrowed her essays in college, those late nights spent helping her revise, only to realize now that it had all been an elaborate scheme from the very beginning. At noon, Olivia made her way to Stella's company. Like a wisp of smoke, she slipped into the IT department and implanted a custom Trojan program on the tech supervisor's computer. The program would activate the next time Stella logged into the company's internal network, automatically uploading all her encrypted files to the cloud. "You know," Olivia whispered to the empty office, "you always mocked my programming skills, but you never realized I've been learning in secret." By 3 p.m., Chloe received a special bill. It wasn't an ordinary PDF but a meticulously designed web page. The background was a group photo from their college days, but Chloe's face had been replaced with a surveillance screenshot from the casino. Each loan on the bill was accompanied by a detailed flow chart of the money's movement, culminating in a red icon labeled Underground Casino. Before the debt collectors come knocking, you might want to think of an explanation. The words flashed at the bottom of the page like the neon lights of a casino that never dimmed. In the days that followed, Olivia worked like a precise surgeon, using the evidence she had gathered to dismantle the carefully constructed personas of the three. Emma's plagiarism scandal quickly spread throughout the company. Her rival Johnson had forwarded the evidence to everyone with the email's subject line glaring, "Report on Emma Carter's creative plagiarism star." In the meeting room, the evidence projected on the screen pierced through Emma's last shred of defense like a sharp blade. These ideas are all mine." Emma screamed hysterically, her face turning from red to white, then to pale. Her trembling finger pointed at the projector. "This is a setup. Someone is framing me." The room fell silent, her colleagues watching coldly. Emma's gaze swept across the room and suddenly landed on Stella. She remembered seeing a similar document in Stella's bag a few days ago, along with a familiar pair of earrings, the ones she had lost. "It's you." Emma shot up from her seat, pointing at Stella. "You stole my files and my earrings. Why are you sabotaging me?" Stella smirked, taking a sip of her coffee. "Don't play the victim. Did you think I didn't know you've been secretly contacting my clients, trying to steal my projects?" When Stella's computer screen went black, she was in the middle of revising an important proposal. The screen flickered and then a recording began to play, a conversation of her threatening a colleague in the break room. How do you have this recording?" Stella stammered, demanding answers from her colleagues, but no one responded. Her eyes fell on Chloe, remembering that Chloe had borrowed her laptop a few days earlier. "It was you, wasn't it?" Stella grabbed Chloe's wrist. "You're jealous of my promotion, so you're trying to ruin me." Chloe shook her off, a flicker of panic in her eyes. "Are you insane? Why would I do that?" "Because you're drowning in debt." Stella pulled out an IOU from her bag and flung it in Chloe's face. "I found this in your bag. You owe so much money. Are you trying to blackmail me?" When Chloe was cornered by debt collectors at the company entrance, Olivia watched from across the street. Two burly men dragged Chloe into an alley, gripping her arms. "Pay up," the debt collector snarled. "Or we'll go to your friends and see if they can cover your debts." Chloe collapsed to the ground, tears blurring her vision. She thought of Emma and Stella's cold indifference, their public shaming of her on social media. Suddenly, she pulled out her phone and opened Emma's chat history. "You think I'm the only one who can betray you?" Chloe sneered, handing the phone to the debt collector. "Take a look. Emma and Stella's secrets are worth far more than mine." The three turned on each other on social media, airing each other's darkest secrets. Emma posted about Stella's threats to colleagues. Stella exposed Chloe's gambling addiction, and Chloe uploaded evidence of Emma's plagiarism. "It was you who betrayed me." Emma frantically tagged Stella in the comments. "You stole my files and my earrings. You betrayed me first." Stella shot back. "You were secretly contacting my clients, trying to steal my projects. You both owe me." Chloe commented under another post. "You used me, mocked me, and now it's your turn to taste betrayal." Their arguments escalated until they publicly announced the end of their friendship on social media. What was once an unbreakable bond had shattered under the weight of greed and suspicion. Olivia deleted all the photos and chat records related to them. She stood in front of the mirror, watching her reflection grow clearer. The so-called invisibility had been nothing more than a protective wall she had built around herself. Now that the wall had crumbled, it was time for her to start anew. Chapter 5. A New Beginning. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, painting slender stripes of light on the floor. Olivia stood in front of the mirror, gazing at her clear reflection. It was the first morning since her invisibility had faded, and she could feel the warmth of the sun on her skin. She opened her closet, which was stuffed with clothes she had bought over the years to fit their aesthetic. The lace, sequins and tight dresses felt like carefully designed cages. One by one, Olivia took them out, folded them neatly and placed them into a donation box. The last item was a pair of crystal-encrusted high heels Emma had given her. She remembered Emma saying, "These shoes will make you look less ordinary." Her phone buzzed, a call from a headhunter. Olivia answered, her voice calm and confident. "Yes, I'm interested in the data analyst position at your company." After hanging up, she opened her laptop and began updating her resume. This time she didn't need anyone to polish it for her. In the afternoon, Olivia visited Alex's bookstore. It was the first time she had entered as her true self, not to escape anyone's judgment but simply to enjoy the pleasure of reading. "Welcome," Alex peeked out from behind a bookshelf, his eyes crinkling behind round glasses. "We just got a new copy of A History of Women's Independence. I think you'll like it." Olivia took the book and found a handwritten bookmark tucked between the pages. "When you start loving yourself, the whole world will love you too. Wild. "What's this?" she asked. "I've noticed you always linger in the women's literature section." Alex adjusted his glasses. "And there's something special about you, like a book that's been misplaced on the wrong shelf." Olivia's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "You're a hardcover Jane Eyre, but someone shelved you with the romance novels." Alex's voice was as soft as the rustling of pages. "Your eyes hold stories, but you've always disguised yourself as light fiction." Olivia's fingers unconsciously traced the spine of the book. For the first time, someone had seen through her disguise, not through her clothes or makeup but through her eyes. "Would you like to try my special hot cocoa?" Alex walked toward the counter. "It has cinnamon and orange peel, guaranteed to make you forget the bad weather outside." Olivia followed him to the cozy cafe corner of the bookstore, watching as Alex expertly operated the coffee machine. His apron was dusted with cocoa powder, and his sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, revealing strong forearms. "You know," Alex said as he steamed the milk, "I opened this bookstore because I believe every book is waiting for the right person. Just like every person is waiting for the right one?" Olivia blurted out, then immediately flushed. Alex slid the hot cocoa toward her, its surface adorned with a cinnamon-dusted rose. "Just like now, I found a book worth treasuring." Olivia took a sip, the warmth of cinnamon and the zest of orange peel blooming on her tongue. Suddenly, she remembered something and pulled a poetry collection from her bag. These are poems I wrote in college. I stopped opening it after they laughed at me." Alex flipped through the pages, his eyes lingering on the lines. "These are beautiful, like waves under moonlight, gentle yet powerful." He looked up at Olivia. "Would you like to share them at Friday's reading night? The theme is reinventing yourself." Olivia felt her heart race, but this time it wasn't out of fear. It was anticipation. "Yes, I'd like that." As she left the bookstore, Alex handed her a bookmark. "Here's the recipe for tomorrow's hot cocoa if you'd like to come back and try it." On the back of the bookmark was a handwritten note. "Some encounters aren't accidents. They're fate reminding us it's time to turn a new page." Olivia stood at the bookstore entrance, gazing at the setting sun. She suddenly understood that rebirth wasn't about forgetting the past but learning to let new flowers bloom from the scars. Chapter 6. Data and Poetry. Olivia's new job was at a tech startup, its office located in the tallest skyscraper in the city. Standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, she looked down at the endless stream of traffic below, feeling as though she had finally reached the pinnacle of her life. "Welcome to the team." Sarah, the project manager, handed her a cup of coffee. "I heard you're quite skilled in data visualization?" Olivia accepted the coffee, the familiar aroma of hazelnut filling her senses. She remembered how she used to buy coffee for Emma but never got to taste it herself. Now this cup meant for her tasted especially sweet. During her lunch break, Olivia discovered an aerial garden on the rooftop. She sat on a wicker chair, opening a history of women's independence. Sunlight streamed through the glass dome, illuminating the pages, and she felt a corner of her heart slowly healing. "Do you like it here too?" Sarah's voice came from behind. "I designed this space to give employees a place to relax." Olivia looked up and saw the wisdom hidden in the faint lines at the corners of Sarah's eyes. They talked about the challenges women face in the workplace, the balance between work and life, and the gap between dreams and reality. Olivia realized that true friendship didn't require forced effort. It only needed sincerity. After work, Olivia headed to Alex's bookstore. It was Friday and she was going to share her poetry at the reading night. Nervous, Alex handed her a cup of hot cocoa, this time with a crescent moon design on the surface. A little. Olivia took a sip and noticed the flavor was different. "What's this?" "Lavender syrup," Alex winked. "It helps ease the nerves." When the reading began, Olivia stood at the small podium, looking out at the familiar faces in the audience. Sarah, Alex, and a few new colleagues. She took a deep breath and began to recite her poem. "In the ocean of data, I found an island of poetry. Code sparkles like stars, and words are the galaxies that connect them." When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Olivia saw Sarah wiping away tears, while Alex held up his phone, the screen displaying "Bravo." "That poem was beautiful," one audience member said. "It reminded me of my own journey in the workplace." "Absolutely," another chimed in. "The metaphor of data and poetry is brilliant." Olivia felt her eyes grow warm. For the first time, her work had received genuine praise, not hollow flattery. After the event, Alex invited her to stay and help organize the books. As they sorted through the poetry section, Alex suddenly said, "You know, when you were reciting, you were glowing." Olivia blushed. "That's just the stage lights." "No," Alex gently pulled out a collection of Neruda's poems. "It's because you've finally found your own light." He opened the book and pointed to a page. "It's like what's written here. I love you as certain dark things are to be loved in secret between the shadow and the soul." Olivia's heart raced. She took the book and found a bookmark tucked between the pages on which was written, "The moonlight is beautiful tonight." She looked out the window where the moonlight bathed Alex's profile. In that moment, Olivia suddenly understood that rebirth wasn't just about rediscovering herself. It was also about learning to love and trust again. Chapter 7. Confessions on a Rainy Night. The rainstorm arrived suddenly, trapping Olivia in the bookstore. Alex suggested a game. Each of them would pick a book and use a line from it to confess their feelings. "I'll go first," Alex said, pulling a copy of The Little Prince from the shelf. He flipped to a dog-eared page and read, "Perhaps there are 5,000 identical roses in the world, but you are my one and only." Olivia's heart skipped a beat. She walked to the poetry section and selected a collection by Neruda. "I love you as certain dark things are to be loved in secret between the shadow and the soul." As the rain softened, Alex took Olivia's hand. "I've been waiting for this day, the day you're no longer invisible." "I'm not invisible anymore," Olivia said softly. "But if you're willing, we can write a new story together." Outside, the rain stopped. Moonlight broke through the clouds, casting a soft glow on the bookstore's sign, Alex's Bookstore, which shimmered faintly in the night. The next day, Olivia arrived at work to find Sarah waiting for her. "Last night's reading was amazing," Sarah exclaimed excitedly. "I have an idea. We could turn data visualization into an art project, combining it with your poetry." Olivia's eyes lit up. "You mean turning code into poetry?" "Exactly." Sarah handed her a proposal. "We can use your poems as the theme for the data visualization, giving cold, hard data a soul." For the next few weeks, Olivia threw herself into the project. During the day, she worked on data at the office, and at night, she discussed the layout of her poetry collection with Alex at the bookstore. Alex designed a special cover for her book, a galaxy of data streams with a single rose floating in the center. "This is our story," Alex said, pointing to the cover. "The meeting of data and poetry." On the day of the project launch, Olivia stood in the center of the exhibition hall, gazing at her creation. A massive screen where data flowed like a galaxy, each star a line of poetry. The audience marveled and the media clamored for coverage. Olivia, you did it. Sarah hugged her tightly. You gave Data a soul. Just then Olivia's phone rang. It was Emma. We want to see you, Emma's voice trembled. We saw your exhibition and it was incredible. Olivia paused, then said, all right. Let's meet at Alex's bookstore. After hanging up, Alex took her hand. Do you want me to come with you? Olivia shook her head. This time I want to face it alone. The bookstore's glass door opened with a chime of the bell. Olivia looked up to see Emma, Stella and Chloe standing in the doorway. They looked worn and weary. Emma's once glossy hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, Stella's makeup was no longer flawless, and Chloe wore faded jeans and a simple t-shirt instead of her usual designer outfits. Olivia. Emma's voice quivered as if forcing the words out. We want to apologize. Olivia closed the book in her hands and regarded them calmly. Sunlight streamed through the bookstore windows, stretching their shadows across the floor. The air was filled with the scent of coffee and old books as if time had paused. After losing you, we realized how pathetic we were, Emma said, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her shirt. We thought that glamorous life was everything, but now we see it was all a lie. Stella took a step forward, her heels clicking softly on the floor. Those designer bags and fancy restaurants, they seem ridiculous now. We gave up the most important thing for them. You. Chloe was already sobbing, her shoulders shaking. Can we start over? Olivia looked at them, her heart unexpectedly calm. She set the book down and stood before them, her gaze sweeping over Emma's tear-streaked face, Stella's clenched hands and Chloe's trembling shoulders. Felt like watching an old movie, familiar yet distant. Do you know what true friendship is? Olivia's voice was soft but firm. It's not about using each other. It's about lifting each other up. I used to think that if I worked hard enough, gave enough, I could earn your sincerity. But I've learned that friendship isn't a transaction. It's the resonance of two hearts. Tears fell from Emma's eyes, splashing onto the floor. We were wrong, so wrong. We shouldn't have treated you like that. Stella bit her lip, her voice choked. We were jealous of your talent, your kindness. That's why we treated you that way. Chloe covered her face, tears streaming through her fingers. We thought material things could fill the void inside, but now we see that what we lost was the most precious. Olivia took a deep breath, the faint scent of lavender from Alex's special hot cocoa filling the air. She thought of that rainy night, of Alex's gentle gaze, and of how she had slowly stepped out of the shadows to find her true self. I forgive you, Olivia said softly, not for your sake but for mine. I can't change the past, but I can choose not to be bound by it anymore. Emma reached out as if to take Olivia's hand, then pulled back. Can we still be friends? Olivia shook her head, a faint smile on her lips. Some wounds heal, but the scars remain. We don't have to be enemies, but we can't go back to how things were. I hope you can find your true selves just as I have. The bell chimed again as Alex emerged from behind the counter, holding 2 cups of hot cocoa. He glanced at Emma and the others, then handed one to Olivia. Do you need me? Olivia shook her head, taking the cocoa. The cinnamon-dusted rose on its surface seemed to glow. No, I've learned how to face the past. Emma, Stella and Chloe stood still, watching as Olivia and Alex walked deeper into the bookstore. Sunlight bathed their retreating figures, as if painting a gentle ending to this chapter of their story. Chapter 8. A new chapter. After the success of the project, Olivia was promoted at work. Her new desk was by the floor-to-ceiling window, where sunlight spilled across its surface, illuminating the potted mint plant Alex had given her. This symbolizes a new beginning, Alex had said when he gifted it to her, and you can use it to make tea. Sarah became Olivia's closest colleague and friend. They often worked late into the night together, sharing a box of sushi and brainstorming new ideas for data visualization. Sarah taught Olivia how to stay true to herself in the workplace, while Olivia showed Sarah the poetic side of data. You know, Sarah said one day during lunch, you remind me of my sister. She was a poet too, but... Olivia took Sarah's hand. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. In that moment, Olivia understood what true friendship was. Not about using each other, but about being there when the other needed support. One weekend, while helping out at the bookstore, Olivia discovered a hidden corner. It was filled with unfinished manuscripts and design drafts, all of them Alex's ideas for the layout of her poetry collection. Are these? Olivia flipped through the designs, each one breathtakingly beautiful. Alex scratched his head. I wanted to surprise you. Your poems are so beautiful, they deserve the best presentation. Olivia felt her eyes grow warm. Why are you so good to me? Alex gently wiped away her tears. Because from the moment I first saw you, I knew you were special. Not because you're perfect, but because your imperfections make you so real. He pulled out a specially bound copy of her poetry collection. The cover depicted a galaxy of data streams, with a single rose floating at its center. This is our story. Would you like to finish writing it with me? Olivia took the book and noticed the last page was blank. Alex handed her a pen. This is for our future. A year later, Olivia's poetry collection, Data and Poetry, was published and became a bestseller. At the book launch, she stood under the spotlight, looking out at the familiar faces in the audience. Sarah, Alex, and her parents who had come especially for the occasion. This book isn't just about data, Olivia said in her speech. It's about rebirth, about finding perfection in imperfection and seeing starlight in the darkness. After the event, Alex took her to the rooftop of the bookstore. The night sky was dotted with stars, just like the night they had first met. Remember our game? Alex pulled a book from his pocket. This time I'll go first. He opened The Little Prince, but instead of reading a line from the book, he spoke his own words. Olivia, will you let me be the final chapter of your poetry collection? Olivia smiled. She pulled out the specially bound book from her bag and wrote on the blank page, I do. Under the moonlight, the two embraced. In the distance, the city lights twinkled like stars, and in this little bookstore, a story about data and poetry, rebirth and love, finally reached its perfect ending.